Mic check 1 2, it's the Y2K collector, and someone left a comment on one of my videos basically saying that now is the time where you should buy the dip. And I'm assuming that they were referring to the fact that more and more people were selling their retro gaming collections or their video game collections in general, and that now would be a good time to go ahead and try to, I guess, buy on the low. And I think that there's a few challenges with that thought process in thinking that now is a good time to buy just because, a few people on YouTube are selling their collections. For one thing, um, YouTube collectors make up like probably 1% of the overall video game collecting community. There are way more gamers, collectors out there that you just don't know because a lot of them don't even have social media. They're not even on YouTube. They're not on Instagram, Facebook, any of those sites. So, we don't even really know what the full market looks like. So that's part one. Part two is I don't know if there in fact is necessarily a dip. Um, and if there is, it's not on video games in general. If you're looking to buy, I'll put it this way. If you are looking to buy games that someone could easily find at GameStop, then yeah, maybe you'll be able to find those games cheaper because, a regular seller, right? Their competition is GameStop. So if I try to sell, I don't know, if I try to sell this Castlevania game for 25 bucks, but GameStop has it for 20, why would someone buy it from me? They would just go to GameStop, or even less. GameStop could have it for 15. Why would they buy the game from me when they could just go buy it for less from GameStop? So I think if you're selling like really common titles that are easy to acquire, then you're kind of in a different space in terms of pricing because for one, like games like that aren't really going to grab the attention of resellers because resellers aren't really into those types of games unless you're like a Caleb or unless you're like a Chase or something like that, right? So most of your local resellers, they're looking really for GameCube. They want GameCube. They want, certain Switch games. They want a lot of Nintendo, Super Nintendo. They want the stuff that they think is popular, that they see a lot of people on YouTube say that they sell pretty quickly. So they want the same type of stuff. So that's really where I think, we're at there. But there's a completely different market for niche games. When you think about games like Steambot, Battle Tournament, when you think about games like Hexy's Force, if you think about a game like Guitaru Man Lives, right? These are very niche games, and I don't really know if there's as much of a dip on these types of games as people think, because you just don't see them around as much. They're not in the wild like that. Now you have the other type of game, right, which is not necessarily a low dollar game, but it's still common. Like all the Mario Party games you can easily find on GameStop's website. Mario Kart, Sunshine, Smash, like all of these GameCube games, a lot of them, even like Twilight Princess, you could that's probably on GameStop's website right now. Now, granted, those games do carry a higher price tag and they're gonna be in the, low 100s or maybe in the $50 price range, but still, I don't really know if that constitutes a dip, right? I don't really know. So the gaming and retro, especially retro video games, that market is in a very weird spot. And I think it's because people are doing a lot of curating of their collections. And I think when a lot of collectors start to get rid of the same games or the same types of games, then that's reflected in the market. And I think that's why it feels, in my opinion, like there's an abundance of GameCube. I feel like I see a lot of GameCube games in the market, which is strange because everybody wants GameCube. Like everybody wants GameCube, but I feel like it's those are some of the most accessible games. I see GameCube games every time I go to a mom and pop shop. I see GameCube games every time I go to a GameStop. I see them online all the time, but they move. There's a lot of traffic with GameCube games. So I don't really know what the deal is with that. I think there's just still a lot of hype surrounding that console. and we haven't seen it die completely yet. Like it's becoming dead. Like clearly people are losing interest in it because more games are becoming available on the market, but at the same token, people are still buying it too. So it's kind of a weird one. But again, when we start to look at certain consoles, when we start to look at certain niches, I don't know if there is necessarily going to be a dip. Now, I do think if you are a person who's willing to spend money on a bulk collection, like if you're willing to buy someone's entire collection, so you're willing to spend thousands of dollars on games, then I do think that there's definitely a dip there, because I do feel like there's a certain number of collectors out there. Like there's a fraction of the gaming community of collectors who would like to sell their collection, but they don't want to get like Phoenix resale prices for their collection, right? They're not looking to get 50% or 60%. They're probably looking or hoping to be able to get at least 70%, 75%. And that's a stretch. That's a stretch. I think most places, including mom and pop shops, I think most places, if they're going to pay you 75%, you have to be coming with top tier stuff that's in really good condition, that's hard to find, and is also very desirable. So if you're bringing games that have those 3 or 4 factors with them, then I think you're in a position to where you can kind of look to see if you can get 75, even 80. I know that there was a time when I was selling when I sold like a third of my collection a couple years ago, I was getting about 80% of the price charting value at that time for my collection, and 80% is actually pretty decent. Like it was a decent amount, and games are actually worth more back then because they've come down a lot. In general, like retro game pricing has come down. It hasn't tanked, it hasn't plummeted, it hasn't crashed, but they have definitely come down from their highs for sure. Not all, but a lot of games have come down. So when I sold back, a couple years ago at 80%, I was still getting values that were higher than what I would get today if I were to get like 85 to 90%. So, is there a dip? I think yes, but it's only for certain types of buyers who are willing to buy from certain types of sellers, and it's on certain types of games. That's kind of what I see in the market, in the retro gaming market, because a lot of people say, when I say games are drying up, and when I make a video saying that it's hard to find anything out there, I'm speaking from the standpoint of a person who's not looking to buy Mario Sunshine or any of these common games that you see all the time. I'm not looking for those types of games. I'm looking for other games, like games that I don't see in the wild or games that I don't have in my collection. So for me, as a longtime collector, it feels dry. But if you're somebody just getting started, like if you don't have any games or you only have 2 games on your shelf, well, the world is your oyster, man. I mean, you can probably go out there and crush it and collect all sorts of games that you don't already have. So I think collecting is very perspective based at this point. Is there a dip in some regards? Yeah. Is it available to everyone? No. And is it going to apply to everyone? No. But it's just based on, where you're at with your collection, what niches you're looking into, and, where you can source. So let me know what you guys think about this idea. Like, do you think there's a dip for collectors? Do you think it's a prime opportunity for collectors to start collecting here in 2025? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.